This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
Camp leaders, win back your time to what matters most, your campers. Bolin's comprehensive accounting back office solutions and tech-enabled team free up your staff to focus on your mission. Visit bolinhq.com to learn more and book a free 2-hour financial diagnostic.
Remember what sparked your passion for camp? UltraCamp knows it's about the people, not the paperwork. That's why they built a platform to simplify your camp management. Learn more at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker. Hello, Camp Mavericks, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast, brought to you by UltraCamp, Bolin, and the Simplifying Staff Training video course for camp directors from Beth Allison. My name is Travis Allison. I'm a summer camp consultant specializing in solving the problem I hear most often from camp directors: parents just don't read.
Hi, my name is Chris Hudson, former camp director of Camp Highlight. Look it up. I'm also a camp consultant specializing in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes, I will say it, making sure that every camp space is available and safe for any staff member, family member, or camper.
Hi, y'all. My name is Michael Garcia. I am a consultant and author at Youth Development Pro.
Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're grateful to have you.
Yep.
We're going to talk about some of the things because this is a topic that you suggested, and I'm super grateful. So again, if you're listening, suggest topics, you get on the show. That's how it works around this places.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
So I'm grateful you did that, and thank you. But Michael, before we get into our topic of the day, how did you get connected to camp at first?
Yeah, my first connection, I was a farm kid, and how I got out of working on the farm as a kid, my dad said I could work at a summer camp. And so I first time walked into the YMCA, applied, they gave me a lifeguard course, camp counselor, got home, and my father lied blatantly. I still had to do all the chores. I just had to work at camp. And so that was, that actually is this summer, 35 years ago this summer.
Right on.
So, yeah.
That's great. One of my big camp experiences memorable camp experiences was going to camp and missing haying for one of the haying sessions. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. But yes, then I had to give my sister all the proceeds of our roadside sweet corn stand for the weeks I spent at camp when she worked the table by herself. So I feel all of those things.
What is everyone talking about? Those stories were wild. I grew up in the suburb of the largest city in America, and I did not have those experiences. So there it is.
Yeah.
Did you say
terrible.
Street side corn? What
yeah,
was that?
A sweet corn stand. Yeah.
A sweet corn stand.
Yeah.
What were the profit margins?
The profit margins were great because my dad paid for the seed and the fertilizer, and just put it like you just basically sectioned off a quarter acre and then obviously put in the sweet corn seed and then just fertilized it and did all the care on the acreage.
100%
So it was awesome.
profits.
And my parents would get up with us at 6 a.m. and pick bushels and bushels of corn and then drive us to my grandparents, who were on a crossroads of a couple of major roads, drive us to my grandparents and pick us up at the end of the day. So the margins were awesome on that.
That's a great gig.
Yep.
It's not, but it is. Mine was different. We didn't own the farm, so we just worked it. So our margins were, I don't even remember. Mr. Larson used to just give us money out of the till at the end of the day. That was really just what it was. So and we got to take home the leftovers at the end of the stand. So the family got to eat and got some food and all that stuff.
Yeah. Right on.
I cannot relate, so I'll just stay silent.
The other lingo in there, Chris, was haying. Haying. There are fields that just have alfalfa and stuff in them that get cut 3 times or sometimes 4 times a year just to make bales of hay to feed the livestock. So it's a food that just gets cut and put into bales and then stored, and then you can pull it out in the winter to feed
Hay
livestock.
is edible?
Hay, straw's not edible.
Not for you.
This is why you don't want to watch farming movies with me in the room.
Okay.
Straw is bedding, hay is food.
I My mind's been blown. I Everything I know is wrong.
Let's
That's
not
crazy.
let's not gang up on Chris with farm stories. We'll
Yeah,
go
no,
Yeah.
back
sorry.
to
We'll do
focus on
another
camp.
episode.
Yeah, you two can do your own episode where you talk about the trials
Farm
and
kids.
tribulations of farming.
There are a lot of those too. A lot
I
of those too.
bet.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Welly well. So that's how you got started, Michael. How did you get working in the business full time?
Yeah, so I, throughout my entire life, wanted to grow up and be in the military. I wanted to be
Hmm.
a combat medic. I wanted to fly into hot LZs and
Super
build
fun.
people up.
Yeah.
That was my life. That was what I did. I was
Yeah.
an EMT at 18 years old. Promised my mom I'd go to 1 year of college. I did. And then took a year off to get physically fit while still working at the Y. And that summer, before I turned 21, I joined the United States Army with a delayed entry to go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, the day after my 21st birthday in October. And that summer, my mom had renal kidney failure, which
Oh
meant
no.
she needed a kidney transplant. And I was blessed enough to be a match. So that was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
The Army was not. The Army was like, that's awesome. We're proud of you. But no. And so
Yeah.
I fell into working at the Y after my mom passed away, about 2 weeks after the surgery. All the
Oh
things that were
no.
happening. Yeah, just I fell back into the Y as a safe space for me to kind of develop and grow. And when I started at that time, the Y didn't, you didn't need a college degree to kind of move up. It was just kind of, you just worked hard and kept your head down. And so about 5 months later, I met my wife. And about 6 months after that, we made it just for us and got married a few years later. And more people were from the Y at my wedding than family members. And
Yep. Yep.
27 years later, went all the way through to executive director, bouncing around in camps and aquatics in the beginning. And then I realized I didn't want to smell like chlorine the rest of my life. So I kind of chose the camp field and all that fun stuff. So yeah, so last like 9 years, I've been banging around at different other camps. I worked JCCs and the Girl Scouts. So got some great experience in all those things.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Really fantastic.
So, Michael, we're talking about mentoring people in our business as our topic today because you've just brought out a book and it is just too far out of reach for me to hold it up for people watching on YouTube, but maybe Michael's got one handy. Neither Michael, trust
Down
us
there.
when we say that Michael has a new book out on mentoring camp staff. So I'd like to start off our discussion on mentoring today, just asking you both about mentors that helped you be really camp director. I want to look at the full-time year-round full investment in your life in camp as a career. Chris, who was that for you, or one of? I assume lots of us have had many, but who's one that sticks out for you?
Someone I'll always be grateful to. Always, always, always. And I work with his daughter, and I tell her all the time, as lately as yesterday.
Yeah.
But Jeff Ackerman, who
Mm-hmm.
is a former head of Elwood Day Camp, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
also, he got the Legend in Camping Award like 5 years ago, 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic year. I remember that he got it. And he was just, when we started Camp Highlight, we didn't know anything, like anything at all. Like we didn't know what to charge. Get this, everyone. We were like, we didn't know how much like cost because we're like, I don't know, like $3.99 for the week. Like we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
I met Jeff Ackerman, but we went to everything, like every ACA event, because just try to like get into the groove. And I met Jeff Ackerman, and he's such a he's such like a he was such a good guy. He didn't have
Yeah.
to, but he went out of his way to meet with me and just have me answer these simple for him, but I was struggling. Just really lay things out and make it possible for me. It seemed so impossible when the idea came to us, but like him helping was, I mean, he would meet me. He'd come in and meet me, even if it was just for 30 minutes. He'd come in to meet me,
Yeah.
and into Manhattan. I thought I will always be grateful to him. I mean, Camp Highlight owes him a debt, as I do as well. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it is.
I love that. How about for you, Chris? Michael?
I just went.
I
Oh,
know.
We have
Tell
to
me another
re-record
one.
that session.
Keep
No, sorry.
Michael waiting.
That's all right.
Go, Michael.
Yeah, I would say my first full-time exempt YMCA job, I had the worst job title ever. I was the assistant director of camping and aquatics because neither one could have a full-time person. And
Yeah.
one of those supervisors, her name was Pam Lucas. I got married in November, and January, I started January 1st because the first day of registration opened up January 1st. And she's like, I want you
Mhm.
to come in January 1st, experience it. You have no responsibility that day, just kind of absorb. And this was one of those camps. By the end of that, like 8 hour day, camps closed. We're full. There was no way to take on more kids.
Yep.
There was just no more
Yep.
capacity. So I remember being terrified. I remember, do I bring a lunch? Do I bring it in with me? Like the whole thing. And this is pre cell phones, everybody. And I walked in the front door, and Pam, who was just the most amazing presence of a person when you walked in, just kind of vibrated awesomeness, walked right up to me. And that's when I found out she had no personal space. And
Mm.
so she walked within, I would say, 2 inches of me. She goes, I am so excited you're here. All you're going to do all day, honey, is just walk around with me. And she grabbed my hand and we started walking around, and she was introducing me to parents, and like I was the best thing in the world. And it
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
just made that space of terror go away. And yeah, throughout that whole time with Pam, and even afterwards, she just kind of checked up on me and checked in on me throughout the day. But not only that, through the 3 or 4 or 5 years I was there, just really making sure and letting me fail and watching it and coming into my
Mhm.
office and going, hey, you screwed that one up pretty good. Let's talk about it. And just like, no, not like, not accusatorial, just like, this is what happened. Let's go. And also protecting me when I was going to fail and it was important not to. She would step in and be like, yeah, let's stop right now. Let's take a look at what we're going. So just her empathy and understanding of someone in that situation, she very well could have just passed me off to someone else for the day, but she
Mhm.
just held my hand the whole day.
That's
and
awesome.
and just, it was great. It was great.
What about you,
I
Travis?
I mean, I've been lucky enough to have tons of mentors, and really grateful to lots of them, many of whom I've talked about before. I was a I know I've said this on the show before, that I got hired full time as a camp director at 23 and got sent into 200 acres in the woods by myself
And I'll say it again. That's
because
wild.
the
Wild. Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, I am convinced it's because no one thought this camp would last, and it was just kind of the last thing. I was like, oh, he put up his hand, sure, do take him. And it was so bad. And my first summer was seasonal. Then in June, I took a proposal to them to go full time, and went full time the next year. So that next year, a couple months after I started full time, I went to the Ontario Camps Association conference. I went to a session by a woman named Jane McCutcheon, who people who've been involved in the International Camping Fellowship would know Jane. She's written lots of books that were really big in the 90s in the camp world. And I went to one of her sessions, and she happened to have three friends who stayed at the end of her session. I'm sure just friends to catch up and see her. And I stayed to the end of the session, and I just admitted how scared and dumb I felt in my job. And those four women spent half an hour with me and let me just pick their brains and supported me, and ended up they've all supported me through my entire career, and I'm
Wow.
super grateful to them. So it was Jane McCutcheon, Jackie Rail from Camp Waro, Barb Nadiak, and Marge Booth, all four longtime camp directors in Ontario. And it was just one of those moments you're like, I got to get to a place that I can do this as much as possible. And thanks to those four for that time, that made it so that I could catch my breath and do the job that I was hired to do. So I'm super grateful for them, and just giving me the time, having patience. I pretty sure I just interrupted a nice friend's catch-up moment, but they just, took a deep breath and went, yeah, here's what I would do in that situation. And it was pretty great. It was pretty great. Chris, what sort of stuff have you personally done to mirror or pass on the stuff that was given to you by your mentor?
I am I am just a generous person in general. I think it
Yep.
runs in my family on my dad's side. So I always make myself available. Probably too much. Like probably too much. But actually anyone who wants to start a camp, I urge everyone to start a camp or some sort of youth program. And I say like if you need help, I will help you set it up. Someone took me up on it. Actually one of my campers' mother's friend's son, I'll give everyone a second. Got it? Okay. Was opening a camp in North Carolina, and my kid's mom was like, "Can you please talk to him?" And I said, "Sure, I'll talk to him." And I love the thrill of it. It's like so thrilling to sort of like revisit. It helps me revisit a moment of time in my own life where I'm explaining things to him like, God, I remember what it was like when I didn't know this, like this one thing that now I've known for the past 20 years to 15 years. So yeah, I love talking to especially young people about starting camps, staying in the camp industry, helping pull their friends into the camp industry.
Exclusive to CampHacker listeners. Generate fresh ideas for activities, staff training, marketing campaigns, and more with UltraCamp's plug-and-play AI prompt guide. Download it for free at ultracampmanagement.com/CampHacker. Why struggle with multiple systems when one can do it all? UltraCamp offers a platform that simplifies your work by combining all aspects of camp management into one seamless solution. UltraCamp brings everything you need into one easy-to-use platform. Plan schedules and activities with just a few clicks. Register and track campers easily organize, schedule, and automate your communications. Manage payments and donations seamlessly. Get back to what you love. UltraCamp helps you spend less time on admin tasks and more time creating unforgettable camp experiences. Ready to see if UltraCamp is the perfect fit? Schedule your free personalized demo at ultracampmanagement.com/CampHacker.
Camp leaders, are you bogged down with bookkeeping, accounting, and other back office tasks? Does it take precious time away from what matters most, your campers? Imagine a solution that frees up your staff to focus on creating impactful and memorable experiences for your campers. That's where Bolin comes in. Bolin offers comprehensive accounting back office solutions designed specifically for camps. Our tech-enabled team handles everything from payroll and bookkeeping to financial reporting, compliance, expense management, spend control, and more, allowing your staff to passionately pursue your number one purpose. With Bolin, you can streamline your camp's financial operations, reduce stress, and ensure your team is free to make a lasting impact in your campers' lives. It's time to win back your time and work with a financial partner that truly understands camps. Whether you're a for-profit, nonprofit, overnight, or day camp, Bolin has a solution for you. Visit bolinhq.com to learn more and book a free 2-hour financial diagnostic. The report is yours whether you sign up or not. Let Bolin take care of your accounting needs so you can focus on what truly matters, your campers.
And for you, Michael, how have you passed it on?
Yeah, I think I try to just lead with empathy in everything I do. I think that's the big shout out for that I learned from Pam is that, she definitely and probably should have spent more time in that day being where she needed to be. And I felt that her whole job that day was just to be there for me.
Yeah.
And registration was the first day and it closes. So there was a lot of things that had to happen. She had a great team who'd been there for years, right? All the things were getting checked off and we checked in on them. But the reality is she was checking in on, I felt that she was checking in on them to make sure I understood the process because next year was my job.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's just really being open and honest and being empathetic is when I think about Pam and what she did for me. I try to lead that with the people I work with.
Yeah. Well, I actually want to tell you about a lesson that I learned from a different mentor, or in because again, I've been lucky enough to have lots of them. But when I was growing up at camp, I would go to camp for 6 days a year, and it was one of the only places that I felt noticed and appreciated. And part of the magic of that was the entire time that I was a camper, my camp director's name was Bob Ferris. And he was in seminary at the time, studying to become a Presbyterian minister. I suppose he was probably finishing college and then in seminary. And Bob was just a deeply passionate person, really super committed to social justice.
Mhm.
And he was just such an inspiring leader to everybody from that generation at camp. Very few of us stayed involved in the church other than Bob, but I think that that passion for things and the thing I watched from Beth and have thought about from Bob and thought about over and over again for those years is how Bob was really cutting edge about the way he taught us things. Like it was never a lecture thing. Like I was involved in day long social justice LARPs from the time I was 13. And they were like, I can't help but remember them. They're incredibly powerful and impactful. And they're really well handled because his team loved Bob and followed him and trusted him and even could break things down so that as a 13-year-old, I could get involved in the discussion of what all this meant. And I think that that ability to make it personal, none of the stuff was a game to him. Obviously, we're sort of in within a game framework, but it wasn't silly. It wasn't a game. It was so that we could all experience things and really learn from them. And it was that to me was incredibly powerful, and has stuck with me a number of times, including when Beth and I were camp directing. I had Bob come up and design a new, updated social justice LARP for our camp that we did a couple times. It was pretty amazing to watch teenagers have the same light bulb moment that I had.
Not shocked, Travis, that at 13-year-old you were in this LARP world. I see it. I see it in my mind's eye.
I
Less
can
of a
see it too.
beard, still a little bit, little chin beard, but like I still see it. I still see it.
Well, and it was, it was someone, it was not a dress up and have foam swords kind of LARP. It was,
Yeah,
this is what goes on in the world and this is how people experience it. And it stuck with me.
yeah.
I think, now I'm just thinking about mentoring because that is the topic of the show.
Yeah, please.
And I'm, I don't know how you start a camp without finding someone to mentor. Or if you're listening to this and you want to start a camp, just call me. No, no, but also seriously, like looking back now and looking as I talk to people, like this is a similar experience that everyone has, right? Either they
Hmm.
went to their own camp, a camp near them, or they're connected with ACA and they found people. And I think that's really lovely. I think it's super awesome. But what is, and this was my question, this is what I was thinking. I give, 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 give. That's
Yep.
my problem. I worked that out in therapy. But at, at what point, like, I don't know how to frame this question, but at what point does mentoring become the other thing where you're a co-conspirator? You know what I mean? And not to parent or infantilize a mentee, but
Mhm.
like, where do you set that boundary? Like, I can tell you what to do, but I'm not going to do research for you. And, you know, saying that gently or putting that out there because I just think it's a sensitive thing. And for the mentee, you don't want to destroy or interrupt that relationship because, like I'm saying, like that relationship is really key to getting a program off the ground. So that was just why I was making that thinking face before.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that that involves some form of boundary front loading, or is it something that you introduce as more trust develops
Well,
between you and a mentee, or?
that's a great question. How formal or informal, if we're talking about
Meh.
mentorship, how
Yeah.
formal or informal is it? Because on one hand, you can codify it, but then you are fully a co-conspirator in some way, right? You're a
Yeah. Yeah.
consultant, whether you're paid or not. If you're
Mm.
setting up boundaries and setting an area and setting goals and rules about what we can talk about,
Mm.
then you fall into the trap that I'm talking about. Then if you
Yeah.
don't, and then you just want to keep it friendly and informal, then it's as difficult to setting boundaries as any other part of your life. It's just that I don't want to, I'm just thinking people listening to this, what they can take away from it. I don't want to punish the mentee for asking for help, but and I've had that. I've had people want to meet me. We sit down for an hour. They lay out what their project is. I give them advice. Then they call like 2 days later and it's like, I did it. Now I'm doing this. And I was like, I'm not your supervisor. It's
Mhm.
awkward. What do you think though? Has that ever happened?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's that balance, right? That's the challenge because you, Chris, as an empathetic, understanding, passionate person, wants to give, right? And
Mhm.
I try and put myself to that level as well. And I'm sure a lot of the people listening do as well. And saying no in a polite way is you feeling, at least I feeling like I'm not being my true Michael Garcia,
Mhm.
right? Because Michael Garcia is an empathetic guy who's going to help you out and give you all I can. I'll tell you the consulting thing for me is my wife gets mad at me because she's like, "Oh, why didn't you charge for that?" And I go, "Oh, because they just
Yeah.
needed the help."
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
This is
I
what I'm
got a
talking
cool
about.
sweatshirt out of it. She's
Yeah.
like, "You have 47," and I have a problem. I have 47 sweatshirts. We're not going to talk about that, but like
Where are you going?
my
Your 47
my time
sweatshirts?
has, just because I have a problem with coffee
Okay.
mugs and sweatshirts, and we can have a whole nother
Next
podcast on that.
episode. Okay.
I'll wear one. I'll just start cycling through the sweatshirts. But I think it's important to your time has value, and setting
Yeah.
that boundary with your mentee that my time has value. And if I have an open position, I'd hire you, but I don't. So we are allowed to talk once every whatever the boundaries are, 3 weeks for a
Mhm.
half hour.
Mhm.
That's it. And 3 texts a month. That's it. Unless it's an emergency that blows up, right? Like I've never had this happen and I've asked and no one else has. Do you have that advice? And
Yeah.
you have to advocate for yourself as much as you are willing to advocate for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Michael, you've written a book about it. What's the framework that you developed as part of pulling the book together?
Yeah. So I in oh God, 9 years ago, just really started to write in a notebook about these things and these supervisions and how I want it to flow. And oh, I'll write a book one day kind of situation. And I went to Tri-State and I went as a silent person at Tri-State. I wasn't presenting. I was excited to see some presenters, but I really wanted to connect with people. I really wanted to engage pre-COVID. This is all pre-COVID.
Mm.
And I went around and listened and talked with friends, and I kept hearing the same thing. This generation doesn't want to work. They don't
Mm.
have a work ethic. They don't, and
Mm.
which is bull,
Hmm.
period, end of
Yep.
story. And I will die on that hill.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, you're correct. That
and
is
they've been
false.
saying that the first publication was like in a newspaper in 1830, right? So like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw
no
that.
generation wanted one, right? Like, so what are we talking about here? And so I I feel that I was raised, even with Pam, who I love dearly and would step in front of a bus for her, was very voluntold what to do in my entire career. Do
Mm.
this, and then what happens? Chris was just talking about it. Then they have to come back and report, I did this, now what's next?
Mhm.
And now
Yeah.
what's next? And and so on and so on and so on. And so I didn't find that my staff, I felt weird in the beginning because my staff weren't like that. Because I would be like, yo, Travis, you're gonna go do this. Come to me with any questions. Go. And that was it. And I would drop it and I would inspect what I expect, but I didn't necessarily inspect it when Travis was there. Like I'd swing by the place that needed to be cleaned, or I'd go do this in a casual way. And I was finding that my staff weren't this challenge that I've been hearing other directors having. And so
Yeah.
I really just was kind of getting sick and a little bit at the time I was working at the Y, and I was getting a little burnt out of the that mindset of, well, you can't have more jeans, right? It's unprofessional. They got to wear khakis. These are preschool teachers who are crawling on the floor with their children, but they got to wear khakis and they got to wear a polo and they got to wear a magnetic name tag and they have to boom, 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 fit this mold of outdated professionalism. in my
Mhm.
opinion. And
Mhm.
then that became, you know, how to do this. And empathy is really kind of the core of where this book is really going from. And like we said, allowing people to fail safely, but allowing people to fail. And, you know, how I feel how the boomer, the and spend the nonprofit camp youth development world, boomers and Gen X, I'm a Gen Xer proud, even older millennials are that voluntold management style. And I saw it and I mocked it and I hated it. And then I did it and repeated it and pushed it down. And then I, really kind of said, this isn't working for me. And so when I kind of came up with this idea, I brought it to a couple of friends and they're like, this is either going to be amazing or it's going to be terrible because no one's going to think that they have a problem. Because why? Well, because part of the problem is you don't observe, you just complain that the staff isn't working.
Right.
So that's kind of where it all kind of came from. And yeah, and I came out at the end of January, and it's gotten. I mean, it's hard when friends buy it. They always say it's great, but I've had some people say, I really, I saw myself in that chapter, and I was, I'll work on it. And that's all I can ask. I'm not asking anybody to change. I'm just asking to identify that this may be something, and I'm not all the chapters, right? Like as the writer of it, I'm like, ooh, as I'm writing this, I need to do that better.
Sure.
But
Yeah, yeah.
I,
it's important.
I'm curious what some of the like. Can you just say the chapter headers? Like, how is the book separate? I'm just curious. People are identifying with parts of it, and you identify with parts of it, yeah?
I definitely do. I definitely do. I could go through the chapter header. So one of them is navigating change. I think
Hmm.
that's important. That's the first one, right? And how we do this and how to embrace it and how do you bridge the gap between the generations and the challenges and things like that. I think what we were just talking about, Chris, is clarifying your roles and responsibilities. What's my job as a supervisor slash mentor, and what's the person who I'm menteeing's responsibility and what that looks like. And then this is the hard one. This one was some of the ones I struggled with was barriers of leadership, right? So what's
Mhm.
stopping me from doing it? And I'm going to be honest and as vulnerable as I possibly can. It was fear. For me, it was just fear of change and fear of putting the book out and fear of writing this and putting myself out there.
Mm.
We also talk a lot about emotional intelligence, being vulnerable. Definitely shaped that through my Brene Brown world and readings of the books and things like that. But
Yeah.
I think it's really relevant to being open and honest as a mentor and a mentee. Building effective communication, that's always important, always a need. And then approachable and being trustworthy and being honest and admitting I screwed up. And
Yep.
there's a whole chapter on me as the mentor apologizing to the mentee for the way I handled the situation. And I don't think I've ever had a supervisor apologize in that, other than,
Fair.
hey, I screwed up, thanks. And that was it. The last three or four are growth and positivity. So how do we inspire this in all the work we're doing? How to balance some real structural things, how to balance big picture and small picture thinking. I think, as a young person, you really want to think big. And as a supervisor or a mentor, I want them to think small. I want them to focus on the little things. And there's time that I need to teach them to supervise. And then the last kind of theme is simplifying the process and how to foster well-being. And it's okay, ready in here. There's a whole chapter on if the person's not working out, you don't, if they're not doing harm, and how do we do this process? How can I help them get better for their next role? And it may be with my organization and it may not be. And so that's really looking at for me, the empathy and understanding of these are humans we're working with. So,
I'm sold, and I'm going to get this
all right,
book.
done, done.
So there it is. It does. You're asking people for a lot. And I know this just through my own consulting. Like I'm also Gen X, and all the Gen X and the boomers who run camp, it's a lot of things you're asking them to do, like this empathic, feelings first kind of leadership. It's really difficult because those generations were not raised that way. And so, I mean, I don't want you to read the book because you want people to buy it. right? But if you were gonna, because this is the question I get all the time. Everyone wants to complain about young people, like you said. Oh, they don't, whatever. They don't work, they don't listen, they don't want to do anything. And I'm like, Jesus, like all young people are like that. You were like that. What if you could give people like a quick tip about how to like get over that hump?
I'm going to do it. And it was very frustrating because I got the book, I got the first box, the pre-ordered, I opened it up. I was very excited. And I cried. I'm laid out there. It was like a big thing. I read my book. I read my book, right? Like that was it. And a thing popped in my head. And I was like, man, I wanted to put that in the book. That would have been great. And so here it is.
Yeah.
Ready? Nothing for me without me. You need to involve everybody in all stages of what we're doing. And so I'm not going to do anything for you without you. And I'm not going to ask you to do anything for me without me. Everybody needs to be involved. And my friends that I talk to who have this kind of closed mindset when it comes to supervision, when we talk as Michael and Chris or Michael and Travis, they
Mm.
don't. They're empathetic, understanding, open, willing to talk, willing to cry, willing to have open conversations about how they feel and all that stuff. And then work comes in and they're a boss.
Right.
And I'm my best quotes because you're just listening on the podcast boss when I'm me. And who I am is someone who gets loud and excited and passionate and cries and screams with you and screams for you and also screws up and drops the F bomb occasionally, not in front of children. Really got that talent down, but it's a great accent word if you choose to use it, right? So I'm all of those things, and so for me to shut that off, how much harder it is at work to shut off who you are instead of just being who you truly authentically are, and understand I'm not mad at Pam for voluntolding me everything because I appreciate who she is as a person and I got to know her, but I don't have to voluntold people anymore.
Mm.
I just don't. So if I'm going to do anything for you, it's going to be with you. And so nothing
Right.
for me without me.
Right.
Yeah. That could have been a whole chapter.
That's for your next book, which you're teasing right now. So everyone go out, buy this book. And
Enter
then when
two.
Michael drops the next book, buy that because all this is really great. Great stuff.
So I'm curious. I mean, I think we've introduced a lot of topics and we don't have a ton more time to spend on this, but I think it's important. How, from both sides, how do you put yourself out as a mentor and how do you seek mentorships or seek mentors?
So for me, I have to look at myself and notice things that I need help with and guidance with.
Mm.
And I have to be open and vulnerable enough to look at myself and go, I don't have that skill, or I need to talk to somebody about that skill. And I'm not talking to my therapist, right? I talk to them about a whole separate set of skills that I
Mm.
need to work on. But like to call out somebody and say, hey, I need someone who I trust and can put my faith in that they're not here for an agenda
Mhm.
and they're not here for their emotional connection, that they're really going to be there for my emotional connection that I need help with right now. And I have a really good friend who I use, and it's funny, he uses me, so we call each other, we're the double mentors, and we tackle each other and ask questions because we need that. And someone who's going to call you out on your BS, and also someone who's going to not overhype you. They're going to say, that's a good idea, not be like, that's the best idea ever, you should
Yeah.
write that book. You know, and really just be like, yeah, why don't you take some time to breathe and figure it out and plan it out like you did. Because I started writing this last book in 2010, and to bang another one out next fall is maybe not as thought through as possible. So,
Yeah.
and then how do
Yeah.
you be one? I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. I think it's finding the right mentee, right? I think it's finding the
Yeah.
right mentee to connect with. And then I think it's just, am I the right person to help them manage their situation? And do I have the capacity in my life to be able to do that? And I think the second part I used to not do.
Right.
And
You
I
should
would
just say yes.
overextend myself. Yeah. So I need to be
Yeah.
safe doing it as well.
Yeah. What do you think, Chris? I bought you some time to think about this.
How to find a mentor?
Or, yeah, and how to put yourself out as a mentor other than announcing to 100 countries on a podcast
Yeah.
that people should just call you.
That's the thing. I mean, this goes back to the first question I asked,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, if you are starting a camp, please do email me. Please reach out to me. I would love to give you a couple of tips. So I say that like this, but I would never like put something out in Camping Magazine. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't stand on a stage and say,
Sure.
although I guess this is a stage. I don't know what I'm
Mm.
trying to say. What I'm trying to say is I wouldn't advertise just because, like Michael said, my time is valuable.
Yeah.
And there is going to be a point where it's going to be too much. Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if I want to put myself out as a mentor. It's sort of like usually through a personal connection, I will help
Sure.
somebody. Like I said before with my kids' moms, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but for me, it has to be some kind of personal connection. You come and you ask me for help. You can get like an hour of my time, and then I'd love to hear what happens months from now. I'd love to hear what you have
Right.
to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's it's an interesting balance being open to that and also that giving people what I have in my brain is also my job. So I think for me, it kind of depends on need and my alliance with what the values or goals of their job is or their camp is that gets me interested or has me say, let's set up a time to talk. Have either of you gone to somebody and asked them to be your mentor for something?
Like specifically, like please be my mentor. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
mm-mm. I've had people ask me. I've had
Yeah.
multiple people ask me,
Mm.
but I don't follow up, and they never do.
Oh,
Because it's
right.
like
Okay.
that's the first thing. Like if you want my help, I show me that you're ready to work. And if
Yeah.
you can't even reach back, one of my staff is like, "Can you please be my mentor?" And I was like, "Sure." And I haven't heard from him since I retired from being a camp director at all. And I'm like, "Okay, then you weren't serious about it." And thank God I didn't waste my time because you're not ready to work.
Right.
I'm gonna jump on that, Chris. I think it's important as a mentee, you're in control. As a mentor, and the couple of times I've done it in like formal settings, it, I'm not I'm not calling you to check in. I that's not my job. My job is to be here as a resource for you through conversation or guidance of challenges that you've had, right? Like I've never opened up a camp. Don't call me if you're deciding to do it. But if you want to, for me, I feel my expertise in trainings and developing young staff into future leaders. If you're having a struggle with that, give me a shout, right? That's what I'm here for. I'm going to talk to you, give you some quick old wisdom, and send you on your way. Good luck. I personally don't even need that couple of month follow up. But again, starting a camp is a completely different world. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's just, I'll see you at the next conference. How'd it work? Where I've had two structured mentors where we scheduled, the third Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock at night for an hour. We jumped on Zoom and we did the call. And if they were late after 10 minutes, I've jumped off. I got paid for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'm done. That's their time. Unless they called and said, "Hey, God forbid something happened," of course we'll make it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But
Of
usually
course.
that's it. So I think it's important to structure it out there. I don't think a one-off conversation is a mentor relationship. I think it's a mentoring conversation, but I don't think it's a relationship.
I
Ooh.
know we're pushing the time, but it's just popped
Go.
into my head.
Yeah.
How do you break up with someone? Because it's not just saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have time to mentor you," but if it's not a good fit, Or, and I don't, I feel bad, but if their idea is crappy, you know what I mean? Like if it's not going to work, and I know that because I have the experience, like how do you, so it's kind of the same thing. How do you break up with someone or shoot them down?
Mm,
Yeah.
right. I think that's easier as their consultant than as their mentor. Because I've
For
gone into a
sure.
consultant relationship where I'm being paid to coach a person and had to say, I think you have to get comfortable with the fact that this may not work for you.
Mhm.
And that would be, I mean, I'd probably say that as a mentor. I might say it faster, a little less process to get to that point for them. But but I think I'm more comfortable with that as a consultant than as a mentor. I do think that there's some, I think follow through as a mentee, follow through is incredibly important. I think it's in fairness to those of us who've been around a lot that will say yes and then wait for you to get back to us. That's just a tool that we've had to learn over time to not overcommit and to put that just that one step of action on the person's part. So as a mentee, I would be aware of that. I also think as a mentee, I would come to somebody with a problem. Like, will you be my camp director mentor? Is too too blobby. Like it's just too. There's no edges to that,
I
and I
agree,
think that
but people don't often approach the problem or something specific. I mean, that's just my experience.
yeah. But I'm saying be a good mentee and come like let's teach them how to be a good mentee at this point. Like come with a problem, come with a thing you want to solve, or a reason why you're bringing that problem to that particular person. Like, will you be my mentor? Feels like a lifelong babysitting commitment. That's babysitting's a terrible version of that, but it does feel like a you know you're entering into a massive relationship with no end. And when everybody's busy, if you can just say, help, will you help me just talk through one problem? Or I know that you've had experience with this. Can I talk to you about one thing? That can build to something bigger. But I think having boundaries, coming with the boundaries as a mentee is a better version than will you be my work spouse as a camp director for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to dive in, like Travis, you're right. You got to dive in. And I love the five whys. You'd be my camp director mentor. Why? Well, because I need this. But why? And you just keep diving into those five whys of why they're really asking, and you'll
Yeah.
figure out that boulder is really just a pebble that they're insecure about, and that's what you need to
Yeah.
fix
Yeah.
or help them fix. I shouldn't say fix. We don't fix.
Sure.
We,
Yeah.
help guide.
Right on. Well, thank you both. I really appreciate that. If you folks got a lot out of this conversation, definitely we'll give you the information to get in touch with Michael's book, to pick up Michael's book. But I would also say if you've appreciated this conversation, it helps us to get these kind of things in front of more people. And if you could take a second and rate the CampHacker podcast on any of the podcast apps, if you go to ratemypodcast.com/camp, you can fill out the form there on whichever podcast app you use. That would be good for us and helps us help more people. That means for us, it is time to move to our tool of the week.
Tool of the week.
Michael, you're our guest. Would you like to start with your tool, please?
Sure. Yeah. So I stumbled across this tool working and helping a local boys and girls club. And when I got there, they said, "Oh, we use this app," and never heard of it before. And I think it's great. It's called Trello. It is for me, like very visually orientated and helps organize projects and staff onboarding and summer camp planning and even just your daily things that you do, right? It's a great tool. And when I stopped helping them, I actually went and downloaded it myself. So I'm using it personally. And I think it's just got a great process and way to allow multiple people to give feedback. So Trello it's free too. Well, you have free versions, but yeah. So
Yep. Yeah. And I like Trello for being a really visual system,
Mm-hmm.
and you can sort of make it as visual as you want. And I found it a good way to organize my thoughts, just not just projects, but to try to get my thoughts in order and different things. So that's a great pick. Thank you, Michael. Chris, I've
Okay.
been waiting. Tell us
Okay.
about your tool.
So it's not so much a tool. It's a tool I've already recommended, but I discovered this earlier this week, and I've already saved $130. Use ChatGPT, and I don't know if Claude or the other ones will do this, but I was buying something online, and just a whim, I was like, "Hey, ChatGPT, do you have any coupon codes for this website?"
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Brrr, I got 30% off. The website
Right.
was offering me 10% off as a first-time buyer, but I was like,
Yeah.
not that code, this code. I shop a lot on Instagram because, they got my number. The algorithm is working. And like I
Hmm.
said, I've saved a ton of money this week just getting these discount codes. So like whatever you're ordering, probably not from Amazon, but whatever you're ordering, use ChatGPT and just ask, "Hey, can you find coupon codes for this site?" And I will take 10% of the money that you save. Just send it to me in an envelope, cash.
Smart bills.
Excellent. A great use of ChatGPT. So that's great. Thank you so much, Chris. Perfect. So my tool is a video from a company called Poppy. They have an AI product that I'm testing out, but they do a ton of support and kind of really super casual support of their customers. And what I found is is a one of their founders sitting down with one of their users to talk about not their app. And it was this guy just talking through how he does efficient work on his computer. He's specifically a Mac guy. So it's called 14 insane Mac apps you can't live without. So it's not just like we often do, just list a thing and say you should try this. It's like, here's how you do it, here's how you set it up, here's the set, the actual settings that you should use, here's the shortcuts, here's how it saves you. And he walks it through with this woman, and she's blown away by just the time that he can save her, the simplification of using her own computer. And it's really great. It is super cursy, so you have to go into it ready to hear a lot of cursing from both of them. So fair warning, but it is a great video. And a lot of them, these are all mostly tools that I have seen and used before, but I learned something about every tool that he mentions in there, despite the fact that these kind of little hacky things are exactly what I seek out in the world. I learned a ton. So go to camphacker.tv/podcast and find the show notes for this episode, and you can find the links to all of these tools of the week. Chris, thank you for being on. How can folks get in touch?
I'm upstairs just waiting for dinner to be ready, so call me when it is. Otherwise, you can email me, chris@planetchris.net. Also, you can check out my website, planetchris.net. There's some great pictures of me up there. I mean, I picked them, so of course.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Chris. Michael, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. How can folks get in touch with you and pick up the book?
Sure. Best way to get in touch with me is email Michael, Michael, at youthdevelopmentpro.com. So, and then to get the book, you go to youthdevelopmentpro.com. In the top, there's a little tab that says books. Both of my books are on there. Becoming a Modern Mentor, Developing Youth Leaders. And yeah, so feel free to click on the other things in there. 'Tis the season for summer camp training. So I have my training guides out. So they're downloadable PDFs. If you want to bring hatchet throwing to camp, you can just download the entire lesson plan, training guide, the whole thing, and implement it at your camp. So, yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you for writing the book, Michael, and putting it out there for the rest of the camp world. And thanks for being on CampHacker this week.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to take just a sec before we say goodbye and highlight another Go Camp Pro podcast. I invite you to check out the Camp Owners Pod. Kelly and Howie do some great stuff. Even if you're not a camp owner, I think you should listen to this. There's really good lessons that they discuss. They very intentionally put out less episodes than we do, so they're a lot more focused, and I think that gives them the opportunity to really bring the right people in to have discussions. And I think anybody who runs camp can learn from the Camp Owners Pod. So I invite you to search your podcast app for that. If you have any ideas or questions about the show or want to pitch us on a show like Michael did, Travis at gocamp.pro. Thanks for the evening, friends.
The Camp Hacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening.
Hey, Camp Pros. We love that our industry is built on sharing. In order to foster that spirit, if you've gotten even one good idea from a Go Camp Pro podcast, a masterclass, from the Summer Camp Pros group on Facebook, at a conference, or wherever else, we ask that you give credit where credit is due. That way, we can encourage camp pros to keep freely sharing their brilliant ideas and make the camp industry better. Thanks very much.